Hello, hello. We
Hey,
are
hey.
back. How are you doing today? How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm good. I was just talking about how I'm going to get ready for reInvent at the moment, which is busy times. Shout out sessions. I'll throw it up now, actually. I've mentioned the reInvent. These are my sessions. Come along, say hi. Busy agenda. And I will be working at the AWS CFM booth while I'm there. So if anybody's going and wants to come say hi or ask a question or wants a sticker and can't make it to the talks, then I will be sharing on LinkedIn the booth times that I'll be there, so you can come say hi. But yeah, how's your day going? You were talking to me about chargeback before we started. Busy times for
Right.
that.
I know. So it's that time of the year, right, where we start allocating budgets for next year. So cost allocation has a big part to play because cloud
Mhm.
spend is, chargebacks and stuff. So I've been working since morning, like early morning, I would say like around 5:30,
Oh,
trying to get all the cost center codes and all the cost allocation tags in vetted, verified, validated, updated. So that has been keeping me busy since morning.
oh my goodness, oh my goodness. No, I that is one thing about not being in-house that I don't miss necessarily is like trying to catch people to get the cost allocation stuff, which can always be a challenge. But well done for everyone who's watching, who's doing that. Well done to you for doing it. Awesome. Okay, well, let's get into it. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch, and I'm a senior optimization architect helping you with all your cloud financial management. And today we're going to be talking all about how small changes can make a big impact. And I'm super excited to talk about this because I feel like a lot of the time we talk about how to set up a strategy, how to do a campaign, like what good looks like. And you came to me and were like, hey, I've got this story. And I was like, tick, 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 tick. It was like a perfect example of how to optimize and how to structure an optimization. So if you were looking for some inspiration in how to optimize, this is the episode for you. But do you want to do your 1 minute origin story to kick us off?
Sure. Sure. So I've been working in the FinOps area for almost 2+ years now. I started my career in FinOps as a senior cloud optimization engineer, and then moved on to becoming senior cloud FinOps manager. And currently, I am vice president cloud FinOps at Chubb Insurance. So that's my little growth. And then I'm also FinOps certified practitioner. I'm a FinOps community ambassador as well. I became ambassador like 2 months ago, and I'm 6x AWS certified, which actually helped me in all these the stories that I'm going to share next.
Great. And we're going to come back to some of the certification stuff later. But people in the chat, is it we've I seem that now we've joined as Amazon has joined the foundation. I feel like I'm constantly bringing it up, like, oh, foundation. So in the chat, if anybody's in the foundation, drop us a little wave or a Bitmoji, or you can use my not Bitmoji, whatever the icon is for like the pressing, which now exists. If I can, I just have to show it if I got it on mine. You can do the little one of me to say that you're in the foundation. Looks a bit like this. So I'm in the foundation. So there you go.
Me too.
Yeah, foundation members, take a register. Awesome. But let's get into it. So people are going to want to know what and how and when you do this optimization. We've already got a question in the chat, which is what tools do you use when using your savings? But we'll come back to that once we kind of get into this. So do you want to set the scene for the optimization story that you have for us?
Sure. Thank you, Steph. So uh, this so we know all the basic, the low hanging fruits, right? So we got through most of the low hanging fruits AWS services. So then we were looking at our top five AWS service spend, and EFS popped up to be one of them.
Okay.
And we were looking at it. Actually, we were like, I was literally staring at it. I'm like, they're just 20 to 30 um, of the top five resources that were contributing to over like $1 million or $1.6 million a year.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like it was shocking. Like how?
So was that like of your kind of like top 10 of spend, was that in the top 10 or was it the number one or?
I would say it was like number two or number three at that point of time, because there were other optimization, opportunities that were ongoing. So
Mhm.
when this actually piqued my curiosity, I'm like, how come EFS is top on the list?
Yeah.
And then what? So for somebody who just asked what tools we use, so we had a tool called Cloudability, Aptio, which is now part of IBM. So that was the tooling that I used
Oh, there
to
we go.
do
Answer this
my
question. What tools did you use? There you go, cloudability.
yes, to do my initial analysis, right? So coming back, so I looked at EFS and I looked at all these, top 20, 30 resources that were contributing, and I was like, what is so different? Why? So then when I went in the console, picked just one resource that was in a non-prod environment. Felt like this could be a good use case if we are moving ahead with the POC. And then when I looked at it, so basically EFS has two different types of modes: bursting and provision throughput. So all these service resources had provision throughput set up, and
Mhm.
the default value for provision throughput is 1024 megabytes per second. And what
Okay.
happens is, if you spin up a resource in the US region, you spend somewhere around $6,000 a month for just
Okay,
one resource.
just one resource, and you've already got a default in there. So you're just like, people are just saying, yes, I want that resource without any kind of chosen configuration.
Yeah, so 6 into 12, right? That's your spend for one resource. And then to top it all, if there were like few resources that were spun up outside of US, which was like, I think, San Paulo, where it was double. It was 12,000 per month.
This is where knowing the regional prices will really, really help. And as a sub note, guys, if you can choose what region you deploy stuff in and you don't have any kind of requirements to be anywhere because of latency or because of any kind of like restrictions, look for the cheapest one. I mean, like, top tip. Continue,
Yes.
continue.
Yeah. So then what happened? I started reaching out to the business partners, like who those resources belong to, and then I spoke. I started talking to the engineering team, asking, "Hey, what was there the requirement? What was the requirement? What was the initial thought process to this? Why was it set at this value?" And then I actually went and looked at the utilization. It was very less.
Mhm.
So I'm like, it makes no sense. Why are we setting up something this high but not utilizing and spending more?
Mhm.
So
Very
then,
simple. Use the
yeah,
data. I love that. That is, again, I'm just sorry, guys. This is going to be a whole episode of me being like, yes, you did the right thing. Yes, you did the right thing. But yeah, just looking at the numbers and saying, okay, or at least asking the question. I think that's a big thing. Is saying like, I can see this. You're not utilizing it. Do you need all that space? Sorry, keep going.
right. So then what happened was, as we did more and more digging, and we, reached to the business partner. And we're like, can we do a POE? So I call this like the whole analysis or the whole journey as a four stages of FinOps, which is, first is analysis, then the proof of concept, then
Mhm.
awareness, which for me is very important, because it's an opportunity for savings across the board. And then the final one is guardrails, where first,
Right.
so we've done detective work. How can we prevent it? So
Right.
coming back, so the next step was the POC, proof of concept, to see if we can reduce the provision throughput, and then see if there is any impact or not, performance impact or not. So we were very cautious when we were changing. And guys, you can change only once a day for EFS, the throughput.
Oh, is that a rule?
I think, yeah. It
Oh.
you can. I think AWS lets to change only once, if
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
not wrong.
Richard, have a little check for that for me, will you? And see if there's a link on that, please. Continue.
Yeah. So we were very cautious, and we were like initially reducing like 50 or 100, and then when we came down to 500, we realized already half of it is not needed. So there's like straight away $3,000 save for a month, and then we kept
Done.
lowering and lowering. We went below 100 megabytes, and there was no
Wow.
performance impact.
Yeah, I love this.
And we were like, what is going on?
What is happening?
Yeah. And then, so we saw like straight away 90% savings. From 6,000, we went down to 600 per month. And then we started, so it was a POC was successful. And then what next? So we asked the BUs if they could do the same in production.
Yeah, so this is actually a good point to bring in this question. So some BUs normally hesitate to implement cost optimization sessions. So how would you evangelize this across the BU? So yeah, how did you get them to engage with this?
So this is a POC, right? That's why I said when I was doing my analysis, I picked the least, like a dev or a sandbox or a test environment where, sometimes what I do is I take the same setup, do it in a sandbox, and see if there is any impact or not. Sometimes I do it by myself to make sure, my POC results, how would it go, have those well documented. And when I go and like meet my business partners, so I initially start with, I want to understand your, project or your app. That's where I start with. And then I, slowly engage and have a conversation. It's more like a conversation. And then slowly I would say, like, was this, did you think of doing this check, or did you, why we going for a provision and not bursting? Did we even try bursting, or was there something else that was going on? So that's how I would take the conversation.
Right.
And most times, if it's a POE and it's like a small, dev environment where they know there's not much impact, generally they would say, yes, okay, let's do
Yeah.
it. And then when they start seeing the results and they see that they can save and look good, and then it expands.
I love that. I think that's a really important kind of, so you've gone with data, you've said, I've tried it. This is what happens. We've got a POC. You've gone for a low risk environment to test this out, and also you've given them the credit, and I think that's a really powerful thing. It's like a central FinOps team is often there to enable other people to do their jobs, and so it's like you guys can showcase that. Brief interlude, just going to say, hey, we've got a couple people saying Flickspore, I think that is, how you doing. We've got Harry coming in saying hey. We've also got I am a boomer, you're a boomer, which I think is the best handle. So welcome everyone, welcome back to the show. So I just wanted to say hi to those guys. But yeah, that's so now you've got them testing on these kind of non-production environments. You've shown them the saving, you've shown them the impact. What do you do next?
So next, we with the same business unit, the business partner, we went with all other lower environments. We changed everything, and then we actually went into production. We were cautious, but we were able to change. And overall, boom, everything went down below 100 megabytes per second. And now
Everything.
all the resources under that particular BU went down. And now this was a big success story, right? So what's the
Yeah.
next step? So we did the POC, we were successful. Now it's awareness. So there are like FinOps councils, monthly cloud councils. So we started, and there's also these emails that go out from a FinOps lens, like, hey, this month we did this, we saved so much. This is a good opportunity. If you are spinning one of these in your environment or in your business unit, feel free to reach out to us to guide you, to show you what we have done and see if it works for you. So that's like the awareness piece that it goes into play, where we also bring our customers, or talk about their success stories, how the money that they save, they use it towards other projects that were in pipeline, and now they can move forward and work on those apps or projects as well, right? So that happened, and then the next piece is, okay, so we had this problem, we have made these changes, we've created awareness, now we've stopped the bleeding. How do we get ourselves alerted, or how do we create guardrails, right? That's key.
Yeah.
So when we were in the middle of this discussion, we realized that most or almost all the resources had 1024 because it was a default setting. And why? Because everybody had used the same CloudFormation template, which had the default value set up.
The defaults, all about the defaults.
Right. So then we realized, okay, so this is the problem. So how do we educate our engineers, right? It's important that for them, like performance and other things, cost is also a metric that needs to be considered when spinning up a resource. So we created something called linting rules. So what happens is when an engineer tries to spin up a resource using CloudFormation template, there's these little snippets that pop up saying, "Hey, if you use 1024, you spend 6,000 or 12,000. Is this what? Are you okay with this, or is this what you're trying to do?"
Mhm.
So those are little things where for any other service, right? Like if there is Graviton, it's, we would say if somebody's spinning up an EC2, we say, "Hey, Graviton is better. It's 20% more savings and cost optimized. So can you look at that than what you're
Yeah.
currently spinning?" So those are like those linting rules that we created, which would help
Mhm.
our engineers to, from a cost perspective, like what they're spinning and what the consequence would be. So
Yeah.
that is one piece.
So with the linting rules, I mean, it's kind of sounds similar to how Infracost do their process. I don't know if you know much about those guys. We had some people on from Haven who utilize Infracost quite a lot, and that basically looks at Git pull requests and has, or you can also install it into Visual Studio. But the linting rules, like, talk to me a bit more. So, like, I don't know about these linting rules that well. So, is this something that you've set up to work in like a code? I'm trying to think, like software, like Visual Studio is what I use.
Yeah.
Is it in there? Tell me more. I'm intrigued.
So yeah, when somebody spins up in a Visual Studio Code environment, right? That's where they start creating the templates. That's when it would pop up. Like when they're about to like spin up, so all
Mhm.
these rules or these snippets would show on their CMD or the terminal saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
this, this." So it's more like an error check, or it's more like until unless you say yes and you move forward,
Yeah.
you won't be led in. So this way, accountability, like we were talking earlier, accountability is the key. So the engineer says, "Yes, this is what I'm going with."
Yeah. That's really cool. And so did you also on your actual like default templates, did
Mhm.
you lower the size from the start as well, or did you leave it as the max one
So
or the big
that's
one?
that's the next thing, right? So
Ah,
SCPs. So we started using SCPs, where what we would do is we would set, so the max threshold we set up was 500 by default.
okay.
Like nothing, anything or anybody who needs beyond that should go through an exception process, and
Nice.
then that's when they would be allowed to set, because they, if you're picking something over a certain threshold, we want you to follow A, B, C, D, validate it, and then say, this is why I need this.
Mhm. Perfect. That again, it's all the rules. It's making me very happy. So, and how did they? Have you had many people come to you saying you need the exceptions, or has it been quite like that's just the rules now, and we don't really need any bigger storage?
Actually, to be honest, not most of the time there was no exception readed. There was
Right.
one BU that actually needed, and they had a valid reason. They went through the process, they went through the checks. It takes time, right? But it's still
Yeah.
fine because you're doing it right rather than rushing it, and then you're spending, but money for what? For like no, not utilized
Yeah.
environments. So or resources, right? So they went through the process, and it was also a good litmus test for us, right, to see if the exception goes through, and then they are able to spin up the resource, which they were. So
Mhm.
that was the whole like end to end that we did. And actually we also created some reports for alerts, like I mentioned earlier. So if the spend went beyond a certain threshold, we would immediately get an email saying, "Hey, you've breached the threshold, the spend threshold." And then what happened was, one time when we were doing the POC phase and we had just set up the alert, I actually received an alert saying, "Hey, there is this, your spend has gone up." And I looked at it, and there was like one resource that popped up. And I immediately reached out to our partners and asked, "Hey, what's is there like a need? Why was this spin up, and why was it set at a default value?" And
Yeah.
then we realized it was an error.
Ah, interesting.
So because we caught it early, we didn't like let it sit or spend more than what we should have. So we were able
Yeah.
to, like, I think, catch it within a day, catch it immediately, clean up and fix everything within a day. So we spent
Wow.
basically nothing.
Nice. That's a nice little little catch as well. I love hearing about people kind of you don't really want to have to try to be catching spends, but it is quite satisfying when you do because you're like, I had all the data and stuff like that. What I wanted to do quickly is on the topic of SCPs, I'm just gonna present my screen. Let's do a little poll. Let's share this, guys. So let us know in your organization, do you have any SCPs? So to do it, all you need to do is click. Why is it not letting me? If you do 1 for yes, 2 for no, one or two. Annoyingly, you have to do 1 or 2. But yeah, do you guys in the chat? Does anybody have any SCPs in their account? Okay, got a couple of ones. One. Awesome. Okay, quite a lot of people do. Okay, that's very good. I'm glad everybody watching. Well done. You've got service control policies, or someone has a.
There's no.
Eric. Eric, why? I know Eric. Get some SCPs in your account, bud. What are you doing? 3. Thank you. 3, I guess, is I don't know. That's probably the third option for this one. Love it. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay. So that's good to know because I feel like I always say to people to suggest them, but I'm never sure if people are actually using them. So well done, everybody who's using them. Okay. So we've gone through. You set up your controls. You had people kind of go out of them. What was wait? How many more have we got on there? Where are we up to with your 4 things?
Okay, I'm at the last one, guardrails, right? So setting up guardrails and then creating SCPs so we don't spend waste resources or like resources with maximum spend. And these 4 stages actually complete the 3 framework capabilities, which is inform, optimize, and operate from the FinOps community.
Amazing. Oh, I love it. Comes back around full circle.
Right. Yeah. So it completes the circle and it doesn't stop here, right? So now the maturity model has what from crawl to walk to run state. But it's again like once you've done, it's not like done and dusted because you have to revisit it again and see what more can you more changes can you make? Like what are those little settings that contribute to the billing? So in that lane, what I would as a pro tip, what I would give people is for each service, understand what is contributing to the bill for a particular service. Like for EFS, there is like provision mode, there is storage, the different kinds of data that gets in, the modes that you use, standard as opposed to IAs or those are the kind of things that you should look for because they actually contribute to more savings.
Yeah. And there's such small changes because I think a lot of the time people think about savings. You think about right sizing, you think about deleting. They're like the 2 big things. And this does fall into the right sizing, I guess, category. But I think it's less. People always like love their precious EC2s and they don't want to change the size of their EC2s, and everyone focuses on that. And so I think it's nice to have. My favorites are when you find optimizations about other services, like ones that aren't EC2 and RDS, because they're like, I just think people focus on them so much. But yeah, definitely a good tip there, knowing the pricing, how your spend is driven by pricing. I'm going to just jump. Oh, go on. Go for it.
Also, like earlier, right, I was talking about the other region where it was twice the amount. We realized that was like a DR and we could push it to US and it worked.
Oh, amazing. To get all the benefit. I love it. You could push to the cheaper regions. So a few questions bits in the chat. So they just wanted to say hi. And their speaker, FinOps certified, great. And also a question, I've answered this in the chat, which is I wanted to learn about Kubernetes. Should I spin up some EKS or should I use bare metal? I am not the container person. I'm never pretending to be, but I did drop a link in here, which is a really nice EKS workshop with Spot. So focusing on the EKS side, focusing on the Spot side as well, how you can use it for cost optimization. That is a good way to do it. I don't know if you've used EKS much or have any advice on it.
Not much, but currently I think we do have some EKS, so probably eventually I'll get to that service and look at how well what can
we'll get you back on when you save more money. I love it. And a little bit. Someone's asked, can you talk about step functions? I think we need a little bit more. Step functions in themselves are a way to manage and automate processes of different services. I used to use them a lot with coordinating Lambda functions. I don't know if you use step functions a lot.
I like batch or anything that's nightly and batch work. That's the most that I've used step functions for.
There you go. If you have any follow-up questions, then feel free to email costoptimization@amazon.com. Those people, if you want to know anything else, any questions about optimization. If you have a similar story you want to come on and share, you're also more than welcome to let me know. Okay, we've got a little bit more time. Now, we did want to jump on what you said earlier about certificates. We wanted to chat a bit about certificates. And so question to the chat, let's go for it again. Who has an AWS certificate? So 1 for yes, 2 for no. Same thing as last time. You could, yeah. Well, we'll add one for you. I don't. So I actually hate doing exams, not the exams, just doing exams. I'm very dyslexic, as most people watching know, and so I often avoid them. But I am going to try and get my essay. Well done, everyone in the chat is certified. Bravo, bravo! Round of applause. I love that. But we were talking about how those certificates helped you with this process. Do you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure. So when I started with my first role, which was senior cloud optimization engineer role, I was new to cloud. I didn't know. I knew like what is EC2 and the basic jargons, but nothing beyond that. I knew what savings plans for where and what RIs are. If you tell me to talk about it, I would say like 1 or 2 sentences as opposed to now where I can talk hours and hours together. So I embarked this journey of doing the practitioner one to get, myself accustomed to the basics of AWS.
I do have that one as well, and I do have the FinOps one. Sorry, I just want to feel like I need to adjust myself, but
so you are certified.
Yeah, I have a FinOps certification. I did the original, the first ever exam they made, and I have got the practitioner
Cool.
cloud one. But yes, okay, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no problem. So that was very interesting. And then I was like, you know what, I should keep this going. And I started with Solution Architect Associate. And, it helped me understand the services better, like what does each service do, how, in depth. And like I mentioned, some of the settings, right, where if you just go through, you can read documentation, but to put it in, to understand it visually and then to, actually put it in your work, that gap I always had that gap, and this kind of helped me to understand while I'm also like trying to implement the same and see like, oh, so say this service has this, so how is it actually working in my environment? Where are we spending more, where are we spending less? Are we using like auto scaling? Say like glue 3.0 and above has auto scaling. So if your company is using glue for a while now and they could be they could be using glue 3.0 or below. If they're using below, I would recommend upgrading to 3 because it has auto scaling, and it actually helps when you decide, when you have like variable workloads.
Yeah, I love it. I think, yeah, go on.
So those are the things that I actually learned during my certification when I was studying for my certification. So one led to the other, and like I'm all 3 associate certified and both the professional certified.
Ooh, she's just bragging now because I have none. It's very impressive. I did have the SAA back when I was younger, which sounds depressing. But when I was a DevOps engineer, I had them, and I was actually the first grad and I think the first woman to get a KPMG. I had like a weird title because like it was like brand new back then. But I did find them really useful, but I think in my role I find it quite hard because I don't do networking stuff all the time, and that's always the tricky thing where you need to practice. So I love that. I just want to say hi, Daily Push. Thanks for joining. But yeah, okay. In the last 2 minutes, so guys, I forgot to say at the start, we're doing something new. We've got a teammate of mine, Richard, who has been listening to our fabulous conversation and will be sharing his summary of what are like 3 key points from today. So we're going to try and do this in the next couple of episodes, see how this works, because we want to make sure that at the end you have like a nice summary view of what we talked about. So I'll get Richard to get his screen share ready, as long as he's still with us. And then, but any closing like tips, advice that you would like to share with the audience here today?
The one that you stated at the first, small changes contribute to big savings.
Nice. I think that's right. I think the fact that you focused in on a change is very, very powerful, and that you didn't try and boil the ocean, which is something that we always talk about. Okay, let's see what Richard came up with for his summary. Let's go down here. So number one, quick wins. Not all regions are not the same. Nice one. POC will not scale without creating awareness. That's, I think, a very, very important one. We've got an episode hopefully next year with EA coming on, and they're going to talk about building trust with developers, and that is a great way to showcase it. Reporting our guardrails are keys to AWS optimization. Richard. That is very funny. I enjoy that. So that is guardrails. Keep doing it. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much for joining today. I've had a blast. Feel free to like, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitch and all that. And as I said last time, any questions, feel free to email costoptimization@amazon.com. But that is all for now. We'll be back next week with more exciting topics, and we'll see you guys then. Have a good rest of your day.